Hello friends and welcome to lesson 3 of unit 1, which is on government intervention. The learning outcomes for this lesson are, this is very important to know that to what extent the government should intervene in the business. So we'll be looking at 5 learning objectives. Number 1, we would like to debate on whether we need government intervention, and if yes, in what all areas. Number 2, why government intervenes, what is the economics of government intervention. Number 3 is we'll see specifically the government intervention in private business, and also we'll see that how the government intervenes, and then we'll take up a small case study which is of European Commission, who put a heavy penalty on Google. So let us start. So I would like to ask all of you, and you can answer me thinking about this, taking some time. Do we need government intervention? So is government intervention needed in general and more specifically in business? If yes, why? And in what all areas? If no, why not? I like this because you see this government employee. I am from the government, I am here to help. So he's trying to give something, but he's trying to take something, maybe through indirect taxes from the citizen. So that is what the people generally think in most of the countries about the government. But I think government has to play a very big role, because without the government, the things will go upside down. So if you have written and you have thought about this, let us discuss the same. Is government intervention needed? My opinion is very much needed, because if you look at our country, India, there are people who are very, very poor, and there are people who are very, very rich. And also, what is the motto of business? The motto of business is profit. So if we look in general, someone has to work for the poor people, for the unequal distribution of so many things. Although we have the fundamental right of equality, but many times you don't see that when you go out to the general public. So someone has to play that role to equalize or try to equalize that. And also, whatsoever we have as resources for our country, they should be evenly distributed, and there has to be a social cause, there has to be a human angle. Who else will look into that? It has to be the government. So that is why the government intervention is needed a lot. But at the same time, the intervention should not be such that it hampers the growth of the country. It hampers the business houses who are trying to contribute to the GDP in a way where they are restrained from growing and contributing to the GDP, because that is also required, because through that the government can invest and work on plans and policies to eradicate poverty, unemployment, and such other things which are required for the citizens of the country. So let us go into the details and see what we have discussed is relevant or not. So if we talk about economics of government intervention, as I was trying to explain, Because of two reasons, government has to intervene. You know, you have limited resources, whether these are natural resources or the resources which are required for people to live, like the basic necessities, which we call as food, shelter, and clothing. So they should be available to all the citizens at a price which is affordable. And all the resources, whether that is if we talk of electricity, water, or the basic necessities, they should be evenly distributed to all the citizens. So equality or equity is the first reason why a government has to intervene. And second is, since you have limited resources, you have to use them efficiently. So the government has to see there is efficient usage or utilization of these resources. So these are the two basic reasons why you need the government intervention. And if we look at the efficiency and equity in the slide, so efficiency making the optimal use of the scarce resources. And number two is the equity. That means it should be efficient distribution, like the public distribution system that the government puts in place for the people. So it has to be the efficient distribution of the scarce resources. So in the efficiency, the government has to address the market failures so that it can prioritize through Pareto improvements. So what is the most important resource, how to use it, how to prioritize the things for the market. Also redistributing the resources to offset the inequality. Although it is non-political, it doesn't make value judgment on what is right. And on the political side, it involves the democratic judgment on what is fair. So it has to look at both aspects. So if I talk about the economic reasons, so to be very specific, to prevent unemployment, protecting the small scale industry, promoting industrialization and digitization as in today's era, improving comparative position in the world market. We talked about ease of doing business, so that is the role of the government. Non-economic reasons, maintaining essential industries. So there are certain industries which the private sector do want to take control of, and these are also the core for the country to grow, like the coal mines, right? For thermal plants, the coal comes, so the government keep the steel industry used to be with the government, the cement industry for infrastructure development. So it has to look at those. So power generation in most of the states is still with the government. So these are non-economic reasons, although they are not generating anything, neither is the resources which are natural in nature to be equally distributed. Then dealing with unfriendly countries. Some of them are in our neighborhood, so you have to deal with them, maintaining the control so that you have a well disciplined, peaceful environment for everyone to grow, preserving national identity. So that is very, very important. So when we talk about specifically about private business, so is the government intervention needed? Yes or no? So feel free to share your views on this. Now let me quote some example. Let's talk about a bank. And my question is, will the bank go to the rural areas or to the places where there is not enough money, right, to be generated? The banks where they would like to have their branches, they want their branches where they see business. like cities like Chandigarh or all the metro cities, big cities where people have a lot of money and they would like to come to the bank. And that is where the business exists for these banks. They will never go to rural areas or remote areas and open up branches there. But then government has to intervene to make some policy that they have to go to the rural areas also. And that is what the government did a few years back. Similarly, if we talk about, say, the bus service, right, or the train service, so or the airlines, so no one would like to connect those cities where they don't find enough traffic or enough business. So that is where the government has to intervene in private business so that the two things, the equity, equality, and the other is efficiency. So if I talk specifically about intervention of government in the business, so government has to provide non-market products and indivisible services. So what do you mean by non-market products? Which has no price and the consumers or the citizens are not ready to pay any price for that, like clean air. Now, a business house is trying to produce something without thinking of the climate and polluting the things because is not bothered about the air, the fresh air for the people living in the near vicinity or polluting the water. So that is why the pollution board is there. So these are non-market products on which the government has to intervene. Indivisible services. Who takes care of the street lights? Who takes care of the roads, the infrastructure that is built? So these all are the indivisible services. So the basic infrastructure, like the airports, the vegetable markets, the road network, right? The bus stations, the bus stands, which you call the railway stations. So that is the basic infrastructure which the government invests in. So improvement in market functioning. So when we talk about the market functioning, there are producers, there are consumers. So the producers, at what price they are going to sell the product to the market. So they want very heavy margins, heavy profit. So government has to intervene as to the basic commodities where they control the prices. And for others in the market, it should not happen that they charge enormous prices. Also, if there are any inherent defects in the market mechanism, so again, the producers and the consumers, also in terms of people hoarding the things and trying to control the market through monopolies. So there is no competition, they try to buy the competition. So acquisitions are happening, they are right or wrong. So government has to intervene here so as to keep a perfect market for the consumers. So optimization of the rate of savings for the basic infrastructure, government needs to invest. Now it has to optimize the rate of saving. That means how much people are saving because the interest rate is dependent on the amount of savings which is coming to the banks through the people. So to keep an optimal balance for the rate of savings for investments. Human angle is the biggest angle. Like when this COVID-19 came, it was the government who had to intervene because the businesses, they are after money. Some of them, they do look at the human angle, but it is the government which was looking for the safety of the citizens, the safety of the consumers, like the Bhopal gas tragedy. So who came forward? So it was the government, right? So government has to intervene if such disasters occur. Maybe an earthquake has come or any natural disaster has come. So that human angle, the government has to intervene at that point of time. So with the lockdown, government came up, intervened, and tried to save and work on the public health. The health sector again is indivisible service with the government hospitals and other things. So these are the areas where the government has to intervene even in the private sector. Now, how government intervenes, that is also important. Again, efficiency and equity, these are the two reasons. The government intervenes through taxes. Wherever they feel the inequality, they put the taxes, and where they feel that they have to be compensated, they provide the subsidies. They try to fix the maximum and minimum prices, like the maximum retail price. So MRP we call it. Similarly, for the basic commodities, they put up a minimum price and and also the maximum price. Regulating the market, so they try to stop those people who all can come to the market, whether if monopolies are being built, how to regulate that, so that the consumer ultimately is benefited. So they do regulate the markets. Also, they look at that all states grow together. So there is no state where the citizens are deficient of anything. So they try to do the funding to the states, provisioning for the states, and they also pick up some ownership in the states. So there are centrally sponsored schemes and there are state sponsored schemes which are there. So we'll be discussing all those in detail later on in some of the units. Now, lastly, I would like to discuss this case study about Google. So, in 2018, you might have read that Google was fined a very heavy fine of almost 5 billion euros. And this fine was because what Google was doing, Google was trying to have the search engine dominance. How they were doing it, for example, I buy any Android device, maybe a mobile, maybe a laptop, maybe a what do you call iPad or anything, not iPad because that will go for Apple. So once I have that, so Google was trying to put the Google search and all the Google products like Google Chrome as their internet search engine. So it was preloaded onto the device. They were also paying the manufacturers to put pre-install all their products, which were Google products, for the search engine and for Android-based apps. Now, European Commission said that they were defaulting on three aspects. Number one is they are denying the rival search engines to reach the consumers. So that was the monopoly they were trying to, and they have no right to put on every device something preloaded, pre-installed. And they also obstructed the development of Android products by developers other than Google. And also, they were denying the rival search engines to gain traffic as they had no access to the consumers. So they fined them heavily, 4.34. That was the biggest example of government intervention. In India, recently, you might have seen that government had to intervene with WhatsApp when during the elections and later on also when there were certain communal riots. So they tried to restrict the number of groups and the message sending. So that is the intervention which the government did, and that was required into the businesses. Now, if we look at some of the big giants, technology giants, like if I talk of Google, Facebook, Amazon, so they are becoming bigger than the countries. So their revenues are far more higher than maybe 10 developing countries' GDP. So they are becoming very monopolist. So the government has to intervene in such cases to see that what is right for the consumers. And with that, I think I finish this lesson 3. And let me summarize the things for you. So we saw that why we need government intervention and what are the reasons for government to intervene. And we also looked at the specific reasons why government has to intervene in the private business and what are the ways through which government intervenes. And then we took up a case study on European Commission Google penalty. Please have your notebooks and pen ready for a small quiz. Question number 1. What are the 2 reasons for government intervention? Broadly, the 2 major reasons why government has to intervene anywhere in any country. Second is, how much was the fine for Google by European Commission? And question number 3, give one example of a non-market product. You can check the answers. 2 reasons for government intervention, basically equity and efficiency. How much was the fine? Almost 5 billion, 4.34 to be precise. And the example of non-market product is fresh air. If you have any questions, you can write to me at gsimgjimt@gmail.com, and I'll try to respond back to your mail as soon as possible. These are 2 further reading references I would like to provide. The first one is if you want to go into the details of that case study that we discussed about the European Commission, where we put up the penalty on Google, so you can go into the details. Number 2 is the Harvard Business Review article, which was by C.K. Padlar way back in 1980, where how MNCs cope with the host in different countries, governments. So that is about the government intervention. Interesting article. You can go through these. Thank you very much for being such a lovely audience. Although I can't see you most of the time, but I know you're enjoying this course because it is very, very important for your business administration. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye for now.